Hi ladies, welcome to your introduction to algebra. Some of you might already be familiar with algebra. And it's not something to be scared of because you actually do it all the time without knowing. And I'll probably explain some examples of real life algebra soon. But the purpose of this video is just to get you used to the terminology used. So terminology means the words we use in algebra. So I'm going to write what we call an expression. Okay, so I'm going to have 3a plus b plus 2. Okay, so I'm going to use everything here. Actually, I might add one more. Let's do 3b. Okay, so I'm going to use this expression to define every word that you need for the beginning or the introduction to algebra. Okay, so the first one we need to use is expression. So I've already used expression. So this whole thing here, and I might use another color to show you. This whole thing here is an expression. And the way we know it's an expression is because there's no equal sign. It's just a group of numbers and letters. But as soon as I put an equal sign in, so let's say it equals 10, it's no longer an expression, it's an equation. Okay, so in your workbooks, make sure you show the difference between an expression and an equation. All right, I'm just going to pause it so I can delete what I don't need. All right, that was quite time consuming, but you had no idea because I was paused the whole time. Okay, so we've done expression, we've done equation. Now let's look at terms. So a term is anything that is separated by a plus or a minus sign. So here we've got 3 pluses. So if it's separated by a plus or a minus, it is a term. Okay, so we have 4 terms here. We have a 3a, b, 2, and 3b. So they're all our terms. Okay, so I'm going to write that down here. Now that's a T, probably not the best looking T that you've ever seen. All right, so these are all terms. Now, moving with these terms, we have what we call like terms. So if you have the same, and I'm just going to say letter for now because we haven't introduced the mathematical term for letter. If they have the same letter, so this has a B and this one has a B, doesn't matter what the number is, we call them like terms. And one last thing while we're here, and I might do this one in blue, is if we have a number all by itself without a letter, so in this case we have the number 2, this is a constant term. Now, just to go over what we've just done, terms are separated by negative and positive signs. Like terms have the same letter part, or we call pronumeral, which we'll cover in a sec. So this is B and this is 3B. And the constant term has no letters associated with it. So it's a constant term. Okay, now I'm going to, let me just think. All right, I might leave it where it is because I can't actually rub off anything there. 2 other things that we haven't covered yet that are extremely important, and I might just use the example of 3a. So I might just do that over here. So 3a. This number, we no longer call it a number, we call it a coefficient. So the number in front of your letter is just a coefficient, but the letter we don't call a letter anymore, we call it a pronumeral. Okay, so coefficient and the pronumeral is the letter. You don't always have to use letters. So when you go into later years, you'll see symbols used as well, but don't worry about that just yet because we're just focusing on letters for now. All right, I'm going to go into your textbook just to see if we've covered. Oh, isn't that horrible how it does that to me? It's a good thing I can see through it. Now, in your textbook, you actually have a lot of definitions here. Okay, so what I've just checked, but I think, and also if you hover over it, see how the definition actually comes up. So you can do that in addition to what we've just done. So I'm going to clear that now. But I think when you read things, sometimes it doesn't make sense until you actually, have someone explain it to you. All right, let's have a look at some exercises now. So hopefully after you've gone through those definitions, you can do 1 and 2, maybe. I'm going to skip to question 4 because question 4 is what people have or students have a lot of trouble with, putting algebraic worded expressions into numerical or mathematical expressions. Okay, so we've got the first one is 1 more than x. So if I've got 1 more than something, I'm actually adding it. So you can write this as 1 plus x or x plus 1. Now, I prefer the second one, but the first one that is exactly the same. It's basically the same as saying 1 plus 10, which is 11, is the same as 10 plus 1, is also 11. The sum. Okay, so the word sum means plus. So the sum of k and 5, you can have k plus 5, or you can have 5 plus k. Double the value of u. So if we're doubling something, what are we doing? We're actually multiplying it by 2, aren't we? So we say 2 times u. Now in algebra, we don't write the multiply sign, we just do 2u. So whenever I see a coefficient and a pronumeral right next to each other, you should know that there's a multiply sign in there. So this is 2 times u. For lots of y, so lots of means multiply. So we've got 4 times y, and hopefully you realize I should have written 4y because there's an invisible multiply sign. Half. Okay, so if I take half of something, I'm actually dividing it by 2. So it's p divided by 2. Now in algebra and all maths, higher maths, we usually do division like that. So p over 2. And you can see that kind of looks more like a half than what this one does. 1/3 of p, not p, q means we're dividing it by 3. So p divided by 3, which should be written as p over 3. 12 less than r. So if we're going less than something, we're going to be taking it away. So if I said 12 less than 20, you'd do 20 minus 12. Okay, so sometimes it's easier to substitute in a number for the letter to see if it makes sense to you. The product of n and 9. So product is a word that you may not have seen too often. So product means to multiply. So we have n times 9. Now in algebra, in maths, we always write the number first. So 9 times n, and they mean the same thing, and hopefully you realize that we get rid of the multiply sign. T is subtracted from 10, so 10 subtract t, and y is divided by 8. So y is divided by 8, or y over 8. All right, I'm going to clear that and just move on to question 5. Write an expression for each of the following without using the multiply or divide symbol. Okay, so the first one, 5 is added to x. So we've got to do this in 2 steps. So we can use the plus or the minus signs because we do that in algebra, but not multiply or divide. So we've added 5 to x, and if you're doing something to the result, you've got to give it a hug. Okay, you've got to put the brackets around and it's doubled. So remember, when we do that, we multiply it by 2. Now there's nothing wrong with writing it like that, but we usually write the multiply first. Okay, so oops, you see what I did there? Should have been a plus. It's probably because I was talking about multiply at the same time. All right, I'm going to do just a few more. A is tripled. So when something is tripled, we're multiplying it by 3. So we're going to have 3a. Remember, we're writing it without the multiply sign. And then 4 is added, plus 4. K is multiplied by 8. Then 3 is subtracted. So k is multiplied by 8. Remember, we write the number first. So 8k. And then 3 is subtracted, minus 3. Now, just before we move on to D, we use brackets here because we're adding. If I didn't put the brackets in, I'm not going to be doing what this expression is asking me to do. Okay, so when you got to add or subtract 2 or more terms, you need to put a bracket around them. Okay, 3 is subtracted from k, so we're going to have k minus 3. Then the result, so we're going to put brackets around them, is multiplied by 8. The sum of x plus y is multiplied by 6. So the sum of x, so remember sum means to add, is multiplied by 6. X is multiplied by 7, so we've got 7x. And the result is halved, so it's divided by 2. P is halved and then 2 is added, so P is halved and then 2 is added. The product of x and y is subtracted from 12. So the product of x and y is just xy. So remember, product means to multiply, and is subtracted from 12. So we're going to have to do 12 minus xy. So a little bit tricky. Okay, so what I want you to have a go at doing is see if you can do question 6, putting it in your own words. So the first one, 7x, means 7 times x. So you could do the product of 7 and x, or x is multiplied by 7. There are a variety of ways you can say the same thing. Once you've done that, have a go at doing some other questions. So we'll have time in class to do these, but actually have a go at doing them just to see how you're coping and what questions you need to ask in class. Okay, bye-bye.